Today's show is brought to you by Mattress Firm. Connecting sleep to sports isn't easy, but here goes. Mattress Firm is America's neighborhood mattress store, and it should be your goal to check out the deals they have going on every day. Their mattresses are softer than your rival team's defense. They get a 10 out of tennis. You'll love your new bed. Okay, all terrible dad jokes aside, head to mattressfirm.com/podcast and stretch your budget further than a gymnast before a floor routine. Welcome to the JJ Redick podcast, where I interview some of the biggest names in sports and culture, as well as give you an inside look at life in the NBA. Today, less big name in sports, more inside look at life in the NBA. I'm only kidding. Today on the show, 76ers guard TJ McConnell.
I will say this. If I start putting a few plays together and I talk crap to the other team and I get the crowd going, they'll be like, "You're playing great." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I just blacked out there." I'm sorry. I don't remember.
I also talk with my fellow teammate about his journey from undrafted guard out of Arizona to third-year fan favorite here in Philadelphia. We also hit on his relationship with head coach Brett Brown and his experience playing on teams with no vets. That's up next. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the JJ Redick podcast. I've got a really fun conversation with my teammate TJ McConnell today. Before I get to TJ, I wanted to touch on a couple topics. First of all, this is the first podcast that I've actually recorded since the episode with Kyrie was put out. I actually recorded the Thierry Henry one first and then recorded with Kyrie the last night we were in London a couple weeks ago. So I haven't had a chance to really fully explain my stance on dinosaurs. I just want to be very clear about this. I do, in fact, believe that dinosaurs existed. I believe that dinosaur fossils are real. My intention with Kyrie, and I believe it was his intention as well, was just to talk about, how we gather information in the digital age, where that information comes from, and the abundance of that information, and how that information can inform us and shape our beliefs. And whether or not those beliefs are real or not is irrelevant, because that information is out there and there are people that believe in that. I believe in dinosaurs. I kind of explicitly said that on the podcast, but I just want to make that on record. Dinosaurs are real. Secondly, had a bummer of an injury in our first game back from London against the Raptors. Was just catching a ball on the wing, and DeLon Wright tried to get a steal, and as he kind of lunged past me, his knee clipped the side of my leg at the very top of my fibula, which is the outside bone on your lower leg, right below your knee. You have a fibular head, and I had a small crack in that bone and was out for a couple weeks. I played last night against Brooklyn in my first game back. Was on a minutes restriction, but other than some soreness today, it feels good, and just happy to be back on the court. I thought our team did a phenomenal job in the 7 games that I was out. I was really happy to see Timmy and Justin get some extended minutes, and both of them played really well, and really happy for those guys. And I think it'll be a boost for our bench going forward. All right, without further ado, let's get to my conversation with TJ McConnell.
I feel like we have a budding bromance, and if either of us could act, we would have a phenomenal buddy cop show. Can I call you Tej?
Yeah, JJ.
You've done a couple podcasts before. On my drive down this morning from Brooklyn, I had the honor of listening to your live appearance on a Philly 76er specific pod called The Rights to Ricky Sanchez. Shout out, Rights to Ricky Sanchez. It was a live pod. How many people were there?
I would say about 500.
500 people for this live pod. Was it a bar or an event space?
It was an event space / bar.
Okay. And you had a couple beers during it?
Yeah. I had a couple brewskis. during the podcast.
We've got our Fiji and essential water on the table right now. We're not cracking beers on our forehead.
It is 10 in the morning.
Your appearance was legendary amongst the Philly faithful, not just for your proclivity to drop F-bombs. I actually, listening to your appearance on the Rice to Ricky Sanchez pod, I felt a little bit like you were speaking at a political rally, trying to rally your base. Like, universal health care. It was more like, fuck universal health care.
All right, let me say my piece on this one.
Okay.
So I went and I was told, have some fun with it.
Yeah.
And did I maybe have too much fun? Yes. But if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't change the way I acted, but I might take away a few of the F-bombs.
Reel it in. Reel it in.
But it was honestly one of the funnest things I've done. Just wanted to show the Philly people that I'm one of the bros.
You are one of the bros. You are one of the bros. I feel like there's a 2 F-bomb limit on any podcast appearance that I go on. One of the things that they said on the pod that I completely agree with is that you are sort of like an unlikely hero of the process. When Sam Hinkie and Josh and Dave and the owners had this vision of tearing this thing down to build it back up, they probably envisioned drafting unicorns in the top 5, like Joel and Ben and Markel. I don't know that like they envisioned you and like Covington, Rob, becoming really heroes of this process. So you're kind of like an unlikely savior. What is that like?
It was actually difficult in the beginning. Coach Brown says it all the time that me and Robert kind of came out of left field and just kind of ran with it. When we came in, my first year, we won 10 games. And I think people here were starting to get sick of me and people of the process and wanted to start winning. So I tried to prove to them that I belong here and wanted to stay in Philly.
Let's talk about this journey, this unlikely journey. I want to start with your last game at Arizona. Sweet 16, Elite 8? Elite 8. So you lose the game. For some reason, I was watching the game. I don't watch a ton of college basketball, but I'm watching the game. And I remember at the end of the game, Sean Miller took you out of the game. You got emotional. You were teary-eyed. And I've told you this before, so obviously don't take offense to this, but I remember thinking to myself, that poor kid, that may be the last time he's going to play competitive basketball.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I was coming out of the game, obviously emotions were high.
Yeah.
And mostly because I felt bad for Coach Miller. I just wanted to get him to his first Final Four and, for Tucson. And second was, there was a scary thought in my mind that this is the last time that I'm going to be putting a basketball jersey on, playing competitive basketball in an arena in front of a sold-out crowd. And you could say I was tearing up a little bit because of that too.
No, it's a scary thought. I mean, I've probably had thoughts like that. Maybe not that dark.
When?
Maybe not that dark. No, I mean, like I think you said to me one time when you walked off the court, like you were like, oh man, this is the last time I'm going to play in America. And I've certainly had that. So the process then from that game where you're like, this may be the last time I'm going to ever play in America, I'm ever going to play in a packed stadium, to being, I believe, the last invite to the pre-draft combine, and then going into draft night. So there's like that 2.5 month period. What was the feedback you're getting at this point?
Yeah, so first I'll tell you about being the last invite at the combine. I'm actually sitting in my apartment studying for a final, and I get a phone call from my agent, and he's like, pack your bags, you're going to Chicago. And I was like, what happened? And he's like, you got to pay your way there.
That's unbelievable.
And get a hotel room, and if someone drops out, like, you're in. And I went there and someone like luckily dropped out. I got in, we're doing like all the testing, like the body fat, the reach, the vertical wingspan. And again, that thought of never playing in America crept back into my mind when they were testing all that stuff. And I just wanted to get to the 5-on-5 stuff, and I thought I played pretty well. Kind of just went from there.
Did you meet with any teams at the combine?
So everyone was doing meetings for like 2 to 3 hours, and I met with one team the entire week, and it was the Atlanta Hawks.
Okay.
So I think it was because I was literally put into the combine at 7 a.m. when it started at 9 that all the interviews were taken up.
Gotcha. Probably wasn't your wingspan that they didn't want to interview you. It's definitely the late entry and not your wingspan. But there's there's a month gap now. There's a month gap. You go to the combine, you have one interview in a week. You're the last guy sort of in. You paid your way. You're like a guy, paying for a G League tryout. You're the Jonathan Simmons of the NBA draft combine, if you will. Then there's a month before the draft. In my mind, I was a lottery pick. Even guys that aren't lottery picks that kind of know they're going to get drafted, they'll pay their way to New York, or their agent will pay their way to New York, and they'll sit in the stands at Madison Square Garden or Barclays or wherever the draft is, and they'll get to walk down on the stage and shake, in my case, David Stern's hand or Adam Silver's hand. So there's this sense that every NBA player has this amazing draft night story. Not the case for you.
No. There was no way in heck I was paying my way to New York to be embarrassed like that. I heard from my agent that there might be a few teams in play, but there wasn't anything that was positive or promised. And actually on draft night, he called me 4 or 5 times and was like, this team wants to draft you, but send you overseas immediately. And we turned it down every time and kind of just bet on myself.
So paint the picture for me then. You're with your family, you're back in Pittsburgh, you're sitting around. Are you watching the draft? Are you too nervous to watch the draft? What's going on?
Well, I don't watch the first round because it's safe to say I wasn't going then. We were out on the porch, doing what Pittsburgh people do, having a few
Schlitz
lemonades and
lemonades. What do Pittsburgh people drink? What is the beer of choice? Natty's?
It's called Iron City Light.
Iron City Light.
It's pretty much Coors Light with ice in it.
Gotcha.
And turned on the second round and kind of just was disappointing. I mean, every person's dream, no matter if you're the last pick or whatever, you would love to hear your name called on that night as a basketball player. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I think maybe 3 or 4 minutes after the draft ended, Sam and Brett called me and gave me a good deal and went from there.
All right, we have more with TJ, but first, a word from today's sponsors. Buying tickets can be complicated and confusing, but there's a simpler way to buy with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event. Whether you're catching your favorite musician on tour, shopping for the perfect gift, or searching for a last-minute deal to see your favorite NBA team, SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. Nothing beats being there in person for the biggest plays of the year, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, and it's by far the easiest way I've found to shop for tickets. I can be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. I actually just used SeatGeek to buy tickets to a Broadway show. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever. SeatGeek saves you time and money by searching multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. And to get the most bang for your buck, SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, from sports and concerts to comedy and theater. And guess what? SeatGeek has a special NBA offer running through All-Star Weekend. First-time purchasers can get $30 off any NBA ticket between now and February 19th. Just use promo code JJPOD, JJPOD, for $30 off any NBA purchase, not just games between now and February 19th, any game. So even if you've been eyeing an April matchup, you can act now and save $30. That's promo code JJPOD for $30 off NBA tickets, or just go ahead and use promo code JJ for $20 off any first-time purchase. I also want to thank our other sponsor on today's show, Mattress Firm. Everyone knows how important stretching is before an event. So does Mattress Firm. Except it's your dollar. Your budget stretches further when you're shopping at America's neighborhood mattress store. It's a true home run, and you'll have a ball. They're the head coaches when it comes to mattress expertise. But know this, they are more than mattress experts. They have a game plan that helps you transform your mattress into a bed. From adjustable bases and sheets to headboards and bedroom decor, they have you literally and figuratively covered up like your favorite cornerback. Go to mattressfirm.com/podcast to see what deals are happening as I read this sentence to you. They even offer you a 120-night sleep trial to ensure perfection and a 120-night low price guarantee so you know you paid the perfect price. Talk about a 1-2 punch, a knockout, if you will. Score big with a perfect bed. Head to mattressfirm.com/podcast to get the play-by-play on how you can monumentally improve your sleep today, tonight, and tomorrow. And now back to TJ McConnell.
I'm gonna get a little sidetracked here, but I'm trying to picture you. You're very hard on yourself. You're very intense. We kind of share that in common. And I think both of us have the tendency sometimes to go to like a dark place and envision sort of the worst case scenario. We both call it staring down the barrel. And I can remember, unfortunately, 2 weeks before the draft, I got arrested for a DUI. And I remember sitting in jail and thinking to myself, my career's over. I'm not going to get drafted. I will be lucky to get an overseas deal, like everything that I had worked for. That didn't happen.
No.
But that was my dark place circa draft. So you go to summer league, you play well, you get the training camp invite, but at this point there's like very little chance of you making the team. There's like 6 point guards in training camp. Most people probably, haven't heard of you. You don't have a big name. What's your mindset going into camp?
I mean, I think you nailed it. Little to no one knew who I was. So I think my mindset was to go in and make a lasting impression by how hard I worked on and off the court and just tried to do things the right way and be a professional. I kind of had to teach myself how to be a professional. We had a very young team and, just on the court, just being like a Tasmanian devil out there and just running all over the place.
Do you remember the moment when they told you had made the team?
Yeah, so we had practice. We had finished our last preseason game, and then we had practice the next day. And I went downstairs in the locker room, and people were getting called up, but not coming back down to the locker room. So the staring down the barrel thing started to creep back into my mind, and Coach Brown just like made it dramatic. He called me up there, and he sat me down, and I was like profusely sweating. Like this was make or break for me. And he goes, my assistant coach just wanted to cut you, but I decided to keep you. And at that point, emotions like ran high for me. The room like literally started to spin because you never thought that I would make it there. And it was just a special day.
I remember the very first conversation we had back in September. It was like the first week, everybody was back after Labor Day, and you, me, and Nick Stauskas were grabbing a bite to eat after open gym. And the first thing you said to me was, I shouldn't be here. I'm not supposed to be here. And I was like, first of all, I was like, yeah, that's great that he still carries that chip on his shoulder. But I didn't realize at the time, like there were 6 point guards in camp. Some of them had guaranteed deals. You didn't, and you still don't. And then you and Cov signed the 2 worst deals ever. So then you make the team. You make the team. You start your very first game, right?
Not the first game, but I start like 18 games in my rookie year.
Your first game was against Boston, right?
Yes.
In the Garden.
Not one of my fondest memories. Do you want me to segue into what happened to me?
What happened to you on your first game?
So I'm warming up, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like in the TD Garden, I didn't know how much I was going to play, and I was the friggin' first guy off the bench. And I come in, and I'm guarding Isaiah Thomas. And he comes down, and they call a play and scores at will. Just scores. Probably the easiest bucket I've ever seen anyone get. We go down on offense. I don't touch the ball. And then we come back, and I look over at Brad Stevens, their head coach, and he goes, again, same play again. And Isaiah Thomas again scores the easiest bucket I've ever seen. We go back down on offense, and mind you, I'm the point guard. I don't touch the ball. And we come back down, and I look over at Brad. Isaiah, again, Same play again. And Isaiah scores again. I come back down on offense, don't touch it. And for the, what is it, the fourth
time
and final time, he comes down, and my help defender saw me get beat 3 times in a row, so he stepped up and he drops it off. And I, in turn, get subbed out. And I said, I am so screwed. I mean, I don't know what to do. I can't guard anyone. And that was the welcome to my NBA moment.
That was
the first 4 minutes of my career.
That was. We've all had those. The first time I ever checked in against the Detroit Pistons, the bench cooed at me. They were like, "Oh, this is easy money. He's dead meat," and they just abused me 5 straight times just on the floor, and I got subbed out. So I can relate to that. The first 2 years of being on this team and being a part of this process, I would imagine for someone as competitive as you has been frustrating. You guys were shitty. Your rookie year, you won 10 games.
Hard fought 10 games.
Hard fought 10 games. A well-deserved 10 victories. And last year, I think 28. Is that right?
28.
Probably would have won more if Joe had been healthy for the whole season, but really just a non-winning environment, but a competitive environment. And now you've transitioned into playing on a team with real playoff aspirations. What's sort of been the difference that you've noticed either amongst your teammates, amongst the coaching staff, the staff in general, in terms of expectations in those first couple of years, or even goals versus what we have now?
Yeah, I think for our first year, expectations were set pretty low, but I don't think they expected us to win those hard-fought 10 games. I thought we were expected to win a little more, but we didn't have any bad dudes on our team. So for as bad as we were, it was still great to come in every day and work, and the culture was kind of being set in place. And then the next year, we added a few pieces, and I mean, we get Joel back, and we kind of take off and show that if we added a little bit more, we can be pretty good. And we win 28 games, and it was still hard. I think we started off 1-10 or 11, and I thought, here we go again. And like you said, as a competitor, it's from going to 2 Elite Eights in college and winning 60-plus games in 2 years to losing 72 my first year and then however many the next year. It was tough. And then we added guys like you and Amir and, brought in other pieces to take us to the next level. And although I think we should have a little bit of a better record this year, we're going in the right direction.
Did you feel any pressure at all? Because I feel like I've always been on competitive teams, and there's always been that pressure to win. My last year in Orlando was not like that. I got traded to Milwaukee at the trade deadline, but those first 54 games of that season, I think we were in sort of tank mode.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've always felt like high stakes, high pressure. Was it different, or did you feel pressure because you were kind of fighting for your own individual position in the league?
Yeah, with us, I'm not sure a lot of people took our team seriously my rookie year.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit last year. So I kind of put this pressure on myself where I have to go out and prove that, I belong here, because I think people would say, I mean, they won 10 games. Anybody could have played that year. And then next year, people will say what they will, but I just had to continue to try to prove them wrong and show them that I belong. And even this year, I think I'm going to have to do that every year in my career, to be honest. But the first 2 for sure.
Well, I don't think you ever can get to a place where you're comfortable. I hate to say this, but there's never been a point in my career where I'm really comfortable. I think when you lose that edge, for guys like me and you, it's really hard to compete at this level without that feeling of always looking over your shoulder and thinking, my days are numbered. I've got to prove it. The thing that's interesting to me is this was a situation. I know Jay Rich was here. I don't know if that was before you. I know Elton Brand was here. Those guys didn't really play. Jay Rich was rehabbing. Elton was just kind of here to be a veteran voice in the locker room. Last year, Gerald Henderson played. But up until this year, your experience has been largely with guys your age, largely with guys that are in their second or third year or first year, and you haven't had any real vets. What was that like those first 2 years versus this year? And if you want to gas me up, gas me up.
I'm going to. So hold your horses there, pal. Yeah, so like I said, it was hard for me my rookie year, even though we had great guys. I just kind of taught myself how to be a professional. And, they taught me stuff, don't get me wrong. And then second year, Gerald came in and helped us all out. But, this year with you and Jared, I kind of have said to a lot of people, it's weird that I finally found my vets in my third year. And I say that about you and Jared because you guys have helped me out so much and just teaching me about the league and like about life. I mean, you and Jared come up to, did you read the Wall Street Journal today? No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
You need to read more books, TJ.
I just bought a few, I promise.
All right, good. I would venture to say 3 of them are on wine.
I would say you are correct.
We'll get to that in a second.
We'll have more with TJ after this quick break.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons, and the Ringer NFL Show has you covered for all your pro football needs. Sunday night, get Michael Lombardi and Tate Frazier's rapid reactions on GM Street. On Tuesdays, the Ringer NFL Show with Robert Mays, Kevin Clark, and regular guest Danny Kelly break down all the biggest angles. On Wednesday, GM Street again. On Thursdays, Clark, Mays, and Danny are back at it again. And on Friday, GM Street's Friday Focus gives you all the insight you need for gambling and everything else. Don't forget about my podcast, too, on Mondays. The BS Podcast, Cousin Sal and I playing Guess the Lines. More importantly, the Ringer NFL Show. Subscribe right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back with TJ McConnell.
So I had this conversation with Kyrie on a podcast a couple episodes ago, but we talked about NBA superpowers. And, for most NBA players, like we all have like one superpower. It's why we're here. It's why we're one of the 450 chosen ones. Guys like Kyrie have like 3. There's probably some guys that have 4 or 5. But you have a superpower. Your mid-range jumper is nice, but that's not your superpower. Your superpower is your spirit. I know you hate this word.
Grit.
No, your grit, your edge. And for the most part, like you bring that to the game every night. Like that's sort of your base or your foundation. How hard is it to have that over the course of 82 games though? Because there's got to be games where you're like, I just want to go out and play tonight, maybe knock down a few jumpers and get a win and call it a day. Like the level that you have to work yourself, the frenzy you have to work yourself into must be exhausting.
Yeah, to try to like wind yourself up, if you will, every night, it can be hard. And I try to bring that spirit as much as I can. I think when I see our team needs it most is when I try to use it as much as I can. But I mean, there will be games, even like yesterday in Brooklyn, I don't think my spirit was quite there. And I thought that showed. And I'm trying to bring it as much as I can, but there will be some nights that it's just not there.
Is there anything you do to mentally or physically to get to that point? Because you're working, you're like a Tasmanian devil is how I would describe you.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be a crazy ass.
A crazy ass.
I come out onto the court and like, pick someone up full court. And when I hear them say, like yesterday, I picked up Spencer Dinwiddie full court and he's like, oh no. And I'm just like, oh yeah. And I'm chasing them all over the court. And that's what usually gets me going. Like hearing someone be like, they're not happy about what's going on or taking place right now.
I had no idea until I became your teammate. And maybe it's because you're on a better team. And I frankly didn't watch a ton of 76ers games. I had no idea how much shit you talked. I mean, I know Joel is probably he's number 1 on our team for sure. You're probably number 2 on our team for shit talking. No, don't give me that look. You are.
When?
You are.
I don't talk shit.
If you score in front of the other team's bench, you're going to say something.
Well, yeah.
If a guy goes under a ball screen, you're going to say something.
Because usually when I'm in front of the other team's bench, you have a guy on their team that doesn't respect me and goes, hell no.
Right.
And like, that just pisses me off. So I'm not going to allow someone to do that.
So at times you feel disrespected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If provoked, that's when I talk the most shit.
I feel like it's all part of the frenzy. like you'll have an 8-minute run, and at the end of that 8-minute run, a guy will go under a ball screen, and you'll knock down a mid-range jumper, and it'll be like you're 1 for 1, and you'll just start talking shit. And before you know it, you look up and you're like, oh my God, TJ has 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a charge.
And I will say this, if I start like putting a few plays together and I like talk crap to the other team and I get the crowd going, like they'll be like, you're playing great. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I just blacked out there. I'm sorry. I don't remember.
That's what you have to do. Yeah. See this, TJ, this has been cathartic. This has been cathartic.
I'm not crazy, but I can go there.
Yeah, but you have to go there.
Yeah, I think I have to go there to continue to play at the level that I want to play at.
How long is that going to be? What's your ultimate goal for your career? I would venture to say that there's going to be a point in time in the next, could be this year, it could be in a year, it could be in 2 years, where you may get reflective and you're going to say, holy shit, like I've just surpassed anything that I thought was possible.
Well, I'll stop you there. After the first year, I reflected and said, holy shit, I've made it past where I thought I was going to. But I want to play 10 years. I think that's a good mark. Who knows how long I'll play? I think that's kind of out of my control. But my goal is to get better every year and try to play 10 plus years. And if a team wants me on their team, I'll play. And that's that, really.
You are a coach's son. Your dad is a high school basketball coach in the Pittsburgh area. Brett is a lifelong coach. He is a grinder. He coached like 18 years in Australia. Not this. I'm talking about Brett Brown,
yes.
To be clear. Not your dad. Your dad is not Brett. And I feel like it's almost providence that you play for Brett. Like it's not a coincidence that this is the coach that you play for. You mentioned he was the one that told you that you made the team. I think that he sees a little bit of himself in you. How has that loyalty, that bond evolved since that first moment where he tells you you're on your team to where you are now?
Yeah, I think you said it best. I think he wanted to give a guy a chance that reminded him a lot of himself. And that's what he saw in me. He tells me that all the time. And our relationship has always been good, but over the years, it just continues to get better. And I think in the beginning, he gave a guy like me a shot, and it was kind of like, all right, this kid's happy to be here, lucky to be here. And I think the next 2 years, I kind of showed him and a lot of people that I belonged here. And I don't think there's a lot of people more happy than he is for my success, and he's a big part of it.
I also have noticed, I think one of the hallmarks of a healthy player-coach and player-player relationship is the ability to tell the truth at a moment's notice. And whether you like that truth or not, you respect it enough to accept it, take it, move on, and there's no bad blood. He and you go at it during a game. Has that always been your relationship with coaches? Were you like that with Sean? Were you like that with your dad?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a competitor of the highest level, and sometimes, my emotions get the best of me, but it's not personal. And yeah, me and my dad would go at it. Me and Sean would go at it, and it happens sometimes between me and Brett, but it's all out of wanting to win. And we all love each other. The coaches I've played for love each other.
You're a lovable guy.
I try. I really try. And with Brett, like, we'll say something, and then 2 minutes later, I love you, Coach. I love you. And he says it back, and he'll even come up to me and say it. And it's like a father-son relationship in all the coaches that I've played for.
Were there any awkward moments when you were in high school and you and your dad would get into it during a game, and then you had to get a ride home from him?
Yeah. A playoff game, I think I had like 30 points or something, and I had like missed a few shots that I shouldn't, and we went at it, and we're in the car. He goes, "You are grounded." And I went,
for missing shots or for yelling back at him?
I think yelling back at him, and I go, "What? Did you just say I was grounded?" I'm like 17 years old. I was like, this doesn't happen to anyone unless you're coached by your dad.
My dad coached me 1 year. I was like 9 years old. He was hard on me, and he broke a clipboard during a game. And it was like 80% of the way through the season, and he elected to have an interim coach for the rest of the year. He realized his actions were inappropriate.
Do you want to know the scariest part about being coached by your dad?
What's that?
And he never did this.
Yeah.
But he clearly can't put his hands on any player on the team, but I'm his son.
Right.
So that was the scariest part. And he never did, but that thought crept into my mind and scared the hell out of me.
Oh, that's great. Your dad's you still coaching today?
Still coaching.
And I would assume that coaching may be in the books for you as well. You're like you're a lifer, man. I see it. If you're not going to coach, you're going to own a winery. That's my prediction.
1,000%. I said I would only own a winery if you and Jared got involved.
Well, we'll see.
Please?
I think your wife is not going to leave Western Pennsylvania. So I don't know what kind of grapes grow there, but we'll figure it out.
Only the best.
So we have a little wine quiz.
Oh, no.
You should get all three of these questions. You are a wine lover. These are softballs, man. These are softballs.
I tense up under pressure.
Okay. Here's the first question. When someone says to you, I had a great Barolo last night at dinner, what grape are they referring to?
Nebbiolo.
Okay. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
1 for 1. Okay. Second question.
Oh, man, I'm so nervous.
In general, what has higher alcohol content? A Pinot Noir or a Cabernet?
A Cabernet.
You're good.
I am good. Oh,
2
man.
for 2. 2 for 2.
Yes.
All right. Third question, and I'm only asking this because I know your wife prefers white wine.
Yeah.
Can you name one type of it can't be champagne. You can't say champagne. Nothing sparkly. One type of white wine other than Chardonnay.
Sauvignon Blanc.
High five.
Oh, yes.
3 for 3. And the good news is I think you made it through the whole podcast without using an F-bomb.
I told you I would behave today.
Okay.
I promised.
Well, you've been great. I appreciate it. Let's go get a workout in.
Thanks, Jage. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tej. That's it for the podcast this week. As always, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to give us a rating and review over at Apple Podcasts.